Welcome to Booked, the bookstore education podcast brought to you by the American Booksellers Association. This episode is part of our Indies Introduced series, where we spotlight debut authors handpicked by booksellers from around the country. In each episode, a bookseller from the Indies Introduced panel will interview the author of a debut title featured in our program.
Hi, my name is Nadi Hinojosa. I am a bookseller from Lark Booksellers in Georgetown, Texas. Today I'm here with Stephanie Wambugu to talk about her new novel, Lonely Crowds. I'm very excited to do so. Stephanie was born in Mombasa, Kenya in 1998 and grew up in Rhode Island. She lives and works in New York, where she received her MFA from Columbia University. She is an editor of Joyland magazine, and Lonely Crowds is her first novel. Lonely Crowds is Lester meets the vanishing half, and a riveting debut novel about a volatile friendship between two outsiders who escape their bleak childhoods and enter the glamorous early 90s art world in New York City. However, only one of them can make it. Stephanie, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you? It's so great to talk to you.
No, me too. You've probably heard this so many times already, but this book is amazing.
Thank you.
It's one of the best
so
I've read all year, and I read it back in February, and that still rings very true today. Okay, both of your main characters build careers as artists, and they both use art as their escape route away from painful upbringings. So I'm wondering what your relationship to art is, and at what point in your life did you turn to art and decide to make a career out of it?
Okay, I guess I'll answer the question not chronologically, like going through my life, but I'll start with college. I studied writing at Bard, and I knew that I wanted to be a writer. I studied poetry initially, and then I started writing fiction. And so the first time I wrote like a substantial piece of fiction, longer piece of fiction, was the novella I wrote for my thesis at Bard. But I feel like before that, it was sort of a natural progression because as a child, I always liked to write. I was lucky enough, like my parents put me in a lot of art extracurriculars. I took like painting lessons, and for a time I went to like art classes, and I always wrote, and they always really encouraged that. And I guess like many people, I didn't realize that writing or even being an artist was like a viable career. I think it's something that the women in the book deal with as well, that they're not sure if you can actually make a living and support yourself as an artist. And so I think I had a bit of that, but for whatever reason, I felt very like a strong feeling of conviction about this being what I wanted to devote my life to. And it feels like it's been the through line from the time that I was like a child to now in my, being in my mid-20s, late 20s now, actually.
Wow. No, that's awesome that you had such support from a young age. I know that's one of the big things with the characters in the book is that they don't have that same kind of support. So it's good to hear that you did, and I'm glad because we got this amazing novel.
Thank you.
Keeping on the topic of art, I kind of was wondering if there was any artwork that's maybe not literature or a novel that feels kind of similar to the story or complements Lonely Crowds.
So there's a painter, Cecily Brown, who painted this work called BFF, and I love her paintings, and she's like it's kind of like abstract backgrounds, but there's some figures within the paintings. So maybe similar to like the style of painting that someone like Ruth is doing, although her painting isn't described like a great deal in the novel. But the reason why BFF feels significant to me is because the plaque when this painting was in her show at MoMA, it said, if you make painting, someone told Cecily Brown, if you make painting your best friend, you'll never be alone. And so she, in honor of that, she, which actually is so moving to hear, when I think about that now, because it feels like there's these twinned kind of searches in the women's lives in the book. Like they're searching for love and companionship as much as they're searching for like a real vocation and a real relationship to their art. And I think that advice that if you make your vocation as an artist your best friend, or you find companionship in it, it's kind of always there for you, and it can always be like a repository or vessel for like the things that you're going through. And so I think that painting in particular feels like has a relationship to the book to me, and the context around the painting.
That makes a lot of sense. I know Ruth in the book like finds her love for art really early on, and she kind of holds it close to her. So that makes sense that you had that idea of like keeping that as your best friend, especially because Ruth kind of struggled going up finding someone, so that makes sense
Yeah,
that she's finding someone out of art. And also,
it's beautiful.
It's
Yeah,
beautiful.
I
It's
love her
beautiful.
paintings. I love her paintings.
Listener, Cecily Brown, BFF, check it out. It complements the book really well. Okay. Self-discovery is a big theme throughout your book, and when I was looking back through my annotations, I ran into this line. I tried to arrive at ways to describe myself, but I could go no further than the pronoun I. I am, I am. So I'm wondering, what was the process like for writing a character who so often felt unsure of herself, especially when she compared herself to everyone around her?
Mhm. I guess it felt kind of generative to me because she could try on all of these different identities, and she kind of could be a container for the people around her. And I remember talking to a friend about this book, and he described it as like a first person that sometimes can shift into feeling more like third person because she gets like kind of swept up in other people's interiority, or like other people's like inhabiting another person's perspective. And I think that that's part of Ruth's like directionlessness was helpful in trying to write a coming of age novel, because she is able to, look at her mother and sort of emulate her mother, be curious about her, do the same thing to her father, do the same thing to Maria. Like, and I think throughout the novel, she's trying to like use other people as a yardstick to measure and understand herself. And so it allowed me to get like very invested in the characters, some of the other characters, even the more minor ones, because she is so she does present it a bit as like a blank slate at times, or sees herself that way.
That makes sense. I like that you brought up her parents. What I really liked that you did in the book was her mom and dad weren't really too much of a focus throughout the story, but they felt very real and fleshed out.
Mm-hmm.
She had kind of a volatile relationship with her parents, but
Mm-hmm.
I felt so much for them. Like, you could really tell that they were kind of stuck in survival mode.
I'm glad to hear that. Yeah.
No, yeah, they felt incredibly real. And I was thinking about a conversation that she had with her father at some point, where her dad is just like, you weren't asked to be born.
Mm-hmm.
And also, nothing else is going to get better from here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And whenever I was looking back through the book, I realized that that's kind of something that Ruth mentions on page 1. So I'm glad that I was able to like go back and tie
Mm-hmm.
that in. But that makes sense that she's kind of like an empty slate, because she didn't get filled with wealth from her parents so much because they were
Mm-hmm.
stuck in that
Mm-hmm.
state of survival. So
Mm-hmm.
that
Yeah,
makes
that's an
sense.
interesting reading. Yeah, yeah.
And I also I asked this question specifically because I don't know how great it is to say that I like identified with this character so much, but I think a lot of people who enjoy like the sad literary, like sad girl stories of someone in their 20s trying to figure themselves out is going to see themselves a lot in this book.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really excited for readers to jump into this.
No, I'm honored to hear you say that you identify with it. I think that's like a huge compliment to get as an
Oh,
author. So thank you,
it's
especially my first time around.
no, yeah, it's I don't know how you encapsulated so much in this novel. By the time I finished it, I was like, I would like 100 more pages. I would follow Ruth
Oh,
around for the rest of her life through New York, until she figures it out. I don't know. Okay. So I've already seen a lot of praise for your prose from a lot of early readers. What I've been describing your book so far is it's lyrical yet melancholy and very Baldwin-esque. I don't know if you've heard that yet, but I see a lot of
no, I haven't.
similarities to
Again, that's such a big compliment. I don't think I can. I'm not even sure if I can accept that. I'm like
no,
such an idol to me. So, yeah,
no,
like,
it's
and
beautiful.
to many people, obviously.
I would definitely like hand sell this alongside Giovanni's Room. I think there are a lot of
I love
similarities.
Giovanni's Room. I read that in high school and it completely changed my life. It's so
Me,
fantastic. I'm due for a reread, so it's good you brought it up. I should reread it.
me too. We have a coffee here at the coffee shop here at the bookstore called Giovanni's Room that I named. It's a lavender vanilla espresso latte, if anyone is wondering. But yeah, I love that book so much. Anyways, what authors have inspired your writing?
Okay, I mean, certainly James Baldwin, Giovanni's Room is absolutely, for many reasons, for its subject matter, I think for like its economy as a book, that such a short book can accomplish as much as it did. I'm really inspired by Gary Indiana as well. He was an art critic and a novelist. I love his novel Horse Crazy. I think that's a very good place to start. It's also his first book, and I think I love reading first novels because I'm, in the same boat, and it's interesting to see how a person's work develops over the course of their, time, their life and their time writing. Um, I really love Toni Morrison, of course, and I'm really inspired by Jean Rhys as well. I was just talking with a friend last night about Good Morning Midnight and the beautiful opening of that novel, which is, she walks into a hotel room and the first line is "quite like old times," said the room, and it's sort of like she is able to like animate like places and like inanimate objects, and she's just such a like witty and like just but also incredibly moving writer. I think she manages to do something that I'm really interested in doing, which is being both like having humor and levity, but also having something that feels like it can have a lot of pathos and it's not totally ironic, but is able to balance both registers of like humor and maybe sadness or like to use your word, like something more melancholic. I'm looking at my bookshelf because I have a lot of the writers that influence me here on my mantle because I always come back to them. I really love Akhil Sharma's Family Life, which is maybe, honestly, I think he's the only living writer I've named because
Wow.
sadly all the other ones are dead. But I love Akhil Sharma's Family Life. I think that's a fantastic book. So many. There's too many people to credit and to thank. I should write, if this book ever is reprinted, I would love to change the acknowledgements and add a list of all the writers who have influenced me because I feel so indebted to so many writers.
That would be beautiful. Yeah, your epigraph was a Kafka quote, so that
Mm-hmm.
makes sense that a lot of
Yeah,
the
I love
authors
Kafka as well.
yes, a lot of the
Yours.
authors that you're speaking about are not too many popular authors. Like besides
Yeah.
Toni Morrison, there's
Mm-hmm.
no one that like I recognize. So I'm excited
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
I wrote all of these down. I'm excited to
Thanks.
look through their work, especially if it's anything similar to what you have written. Again, I'm such a fan of your
I'm
work.
so appreciative. Thank you so much. I can't. It's so kind of you. It's a great way to start the week.
Okay. Another theme throughout the book is obsession, which is one of my favorite things to read in
Mm-hmm.
novels. I love whenever a character just spirals and spirals and spirals. That's my
Mm-hmm.
favorite. On the first page, Ruth shares, "When I met Maria, I learned that without an obsession, life was impossible to live." I underlined that the first time I went through and read it. So I'm wondering, is that only Ruth's thoughts? Is that something that you agree with? And if so, how do you think one should toe the line between a healthy and an unhealthy obsession if one exists?
No, I mean, I'm sort of reluctant to say whether that's life advice because I don't want to give people advice as to how to live. But I think it's coming from Ruth, and I hope that it makes sense why someone like Ruth, like that aligns with her personality and her way of being. That she would say that. I think that maybe you don't need an obsession, like you don't need something that you fixate on. I think, okay, I'll start by saying that I think obsession, like the connotation is that it is unhealthy. It's something that's like like she's goes on to explain like something that comes at the expense of everything else. I don't think that you
Mm.
necessarily need that, but I will say I feel that that's akin to like my relationship to writing, and I think the relationship that most artists have to their work, that it is the priority. It's like the framework through which you see the world. It's like it's part of, I mean, I don't think I can go a single day without talking about the books I'm reading or what I'm writing, or it completely, it's like spills into every part of my life. And I think that can be a person, and it's wonderful if it's a person and it's reciprocal. Oftentimes it's not, and maybe those things are unrequited. But again, going back to the Cecily Brown BFF thing, I think having this relationship to your work that comes at the expense of everything else, maybe not to an unhealthy degree, has been really edifying for me, and I hope that it's constant throughout my life. How to distinguish between an unhealthy and healthy obsession, or I mean, I guess if it's a question of like reciprocation, because I think the one-sidedness, it's, I mean, like as you say, like it's so easy to spiral and you're kind of left alone with this fixation. I think it's good to, in general, it's good. Using writing again, the relationship I have to writing is that I'm obsessed with it and I love it, but it's also yielded good things for me. It's not been like I don't think it's been a destructive
Mm.
thing in my life, but although that's like a really romantic idea, I think that some artists have about their work is like it's like ruined my life and driven me crazy and blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera.
Well, we're lucky that it ended up well for you. But I
Thank
like
you.
how you said it kind of depends on if it's reciprocated or not. That's an interesting way to think about it, especially with this book. I want so badly to talk about the ending of the book, but I don't want
Hmm.
to do any spoilers. But
We can email. We can email at a certain point if you want.
okay,
I'm
okay,
happy to
yes.
talk off the record. Yeah.
I know, yeah. Once I finished the last chapter, I kind of sat there thinking that I understood what happened and what kind of came out of Ruth's obsession. And I
Hmm.
think there are points in the story where you can say, like, it was reciprocated and then it wasn't, it was, and then it
Hmm.
wasn't.
Hmm.
Um, Whenever I finished it, I thought I knew exactly what happened. And then I sat with it for a few days and I was like, wait a minute, did I completely read it wrong? So I'm excited for readers to
Yeah,
jump
I mean,
into it
I want
and
there to be ambiguity throughout the book because I
mhm.
think, relationships are so ambiguous. It's like when you get to the end of a relationship, it's only then when you can begin to like narrativize it and think about what even happened. So I feel like throughout it, you're not seeing with objectivity. It's highly subjective.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, I forgot halfway through that it was like a recounting of a story. It wasn't something that was
Hmm.
happening in real time. By the time I got to the end, I had completely forgotten that this started because she was at a birthday party and her friend wasn't there.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I think you tied everything around really well. Um,
Thank
but
you.
okay. Thank you so much for your time today,
Is
Stephanie.
that
Like I
is that it?
said,
That flew right by. That was great.
yeah, it flew right by. Good for us. But yeah, if you're a bookseller and you are in need of who to sell this to the person who read Aria Aber's Good Girl. In January, that was also one of my favorites, and I these two sit together on my shelf. I think I think this book is going to do great. And honestly, booksellers, you
Oh,
probably
thank you
won't
so
even need to
much.
try to sell it very hard because I think it's just going to fly off the shelf.
You're so
I'm so
kind.
excited to
That's
have
so
spoken
kind.
to you today, Stephanie.
Thank you. Likewise, this was such a pleasure. It was so great to meet you. Thank you
Okay,
for reading
of
the book so
course.
closely. Also, I appreciate it so much.
Of course.
Thank you for listening to Booked, the bookstore education podcast brought to you by the American Booksellers Association. Don't forget to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast app. Additional educational resources can always be found on the ABA site at www.bookweb.org. Happy reading!